Alright guys, what is going on? Oink here, and I'm bringing you this week's seasonals as of the 6th of December 2012 of course, and today's seasonal event is the 580 performance points La Festa Cavallino. Now, for those of you who are wise enough, that is referring to Ferrari, obviously the horse. So this is a Ferrari event, maximum performance points of 580 as you can see there, maximum tyres of Sports Soft. And any car from the Ferrari garage, with the exception of the two Formula 1 cars, of course. Be pretty tricky to get them into 580 performance points anyway. Of course, the typical opponents are within all of those cars, so basically, you know, any of the Ferraris, usually with the leaders being the Enzos. You've got a Capering, Madrid circuit, Trial Mountain, Nürburg short course on the F1 track, and a Toscana custom track. The car that I've chosen to use is the Ferrari 430 Scuderia with a custom tune, which I will go into now. Obviously, a lot of the Ferrari cars perform quite similarly, and most of them can be set at 580 performance points, so it does kind of come down to whichever you want to use. But this is the car I went with just because it has that, it is designed for sports and racing, so it's got that setup, so it does work nicely for this. Obviously, max out on Sports Soft tyres. I've got the fully custom suspension here, and I'll go through my settings. So drop the ride height fairly significantly, minus 13 on the back, minus 14 on the front. Spring rate 12.3 on the back and 10.9 at the front. I think that might have been the default actually. I loosened the extension on the dampers to 4 and 4, although you could go down to 3 on the front, I think might be good as well. And the compression dampers is 4 and 5, anti-roll bars set, I think left at 4 and 4. Camber angle on the front is 1.5 and on the back 0.5, and the toe is 0.15, both front and back. I've got the clutch upgraded and the flywheel upgraded. And then the limited slip diff, I've gone with 10, 40 and 25, although I think that 40 was for the Nürburgring near the end. You could well go with maybe a 10, 25, 25. Again, I think I changed that for the Nürburgring just because that was one of the trickier ones here. But maybe start with 10, 25 and 25 in there. In the fully custom transmission, obviously, we'll be changing that per race, and then get it up to 580 performance points. So I didn't take any exhaust. I've got the racing air filter. I've got the stage 3 engine tune, the sports ECU, stage 1 weight reduction, carbon bonnet, and no ballast or power reduction or anything like that. The reward for this race is quite incredible. It's the Ferrari 330 P4 race car. This is one of the rarest cars in the game and costs the maximum credits of 20 million. And I'm pretty sure unless you get it in a random ticket, the only way to get it is to buy it for 20 million. So it's kind of an incredible prize to get. Definitely worth doing, especially given that this isn't the most difficult of seasonal events, I must say right now. Starting off with the Capering then, a fairly easy one to begin with. I find that the AI tend to be extremely slow coming around this huge sort of loop-the-loop, I don't know what better way to say it, big roundabout thing, that for some reason all the time whenever you do this, AI are just slow around there. And look at that F40 just take off. Landed like 10 meters ahead of me, wow. One thing to watch out, this has got quite a lot of sort of I guess like hills where it kind of swoops down and up again, so just watch that you don't have too much accelerator sort of coming up a hill or coming downhill, just because as the suspension changes you could lose grip, and for example there, if you're braking too hard or whatnot, it can just slip you out. So just try and keep it smooth. And I mean, I took first with a couple laps to go there, so really shouldn't be any problem whatsoever for Capering. The Madrid circuit, that first line there is a nice one to take. Try and get yourself ahead of 10th place there, or 11th place I should say, before the end of that. Puts you in a good position. You don't need to slow down too much as you go into it. You don't need to take this one too fast. I mean, hitting into walls and things really isn't necessary. By all means, play it a bit more aggressive. Try and take that inside line from the other cars if need be. But again, this isn't a particularly tricky one. You can see I'm in 4th on lap 2 out of 5. As I said, just you can play it nice and aggressive, but I think the main thing is try not to clip the walls, because it is, you know, quite an enclosed course. If you do clip that, that can really slow you down or maybe spin you, and if you end up facing a wall, you know, that could really hurt your chances of winning this race. But if you drive well and consistently and don't clip too many walls, it shouldn't be too tricky. You can see they're halfway around lap 4 out of 5, and I take first place, so it's all just plain sailing from there. Just again, keep it nice and tight. Get your line smooth, try not to clip the walls through the little chicanes and things like that, and you should be absolutely fine for Madrid circuit as well. Trial Mountain is the first one which gave me a little bit of trouble, and that's purely because of the setup. This is the one which I decided to loosen the dampers for the extension, and that's because, again, it's got lots of these little sort of bobbles and up and down bits. So this is particularly where I was struggling. Coming out of here, you need to be accelerating and turning left, and then you got like a little bunny hop there and all sorts of things, and I just found that whilst I really wanted to have the accelerator down, because of these bumps in the roads and all this sort of thing, it was, you know, the rear end was just spinning out like crazy. You can see those guys also struggling apparently on that turn. So I loosened off the extension so that my wheels just remain in contact with the ground more often. I'm not sort of hopping off the ground and then as I land, you know, losing my grip and spinning out. So that's definitely why I had those dampers extension loosened off a little bit, so I would recommend that, especially for this one. But I mean, if you've got your setup nice and you can control the car, again, another one that shouldn't be too much of a problem. You can see taking second at the end of lap 4 out of 5 and taking first just at the beginning of lap 5. So the first one which might bear some kind of challenge, but if you get your setup right and you know, get the rhythm of the car, another one you can knock down fairly easily, and again shouldn't cause too many problems. Nürburgring, this is by far the hardest one, I would say. I actually had to change my playstyle and everything to get this one right. Try and, again, cut the inside off the cars, try and steer their inside line. You can see here I'm playing real aggressive, just getting in front of cars and stuff. It's a bit dirty play, I guess, but whatever, it's the AI, I don't really give a shit. So again, I'm in 8th position, coming, you know, already here, which is a nice place to be. I really pushed for that first lap, and I'm going to show you a lot of this first lap, because I think the first lap is probably the most important in this one, because there's so many passes you need to make, otherwise you just won't be in a position that will allow you to be fast enough to get into that first place. There's a couple ways to win this easily. One is just to skip that there. The other is probably to turn skid recovery on, neither of which I was doing. Actually, haven't mentioned that my you know, aid settings is everything turned off. ABS set at 1 as usual. But yeah, you can cut that chicane at the end if you really want, but I kind of wanted to do this properly, you know, I didn't want to cheat in that sense. So this is, you know, doing it without cutting the corner. If you really are struggling, you know, whatever, just cut the corner here. This is the one I'm talking about. Just cut that, and I mean, it should be really easy. As it is, you will need to basically drive solidly. You can see my first lap was a 133, lapping afterwards at about 132-ish, low 132s, maybe sort of high 131s. And again, don't be afraid to basically cut off your opponent there. Again, it's a bit cheap, but I really found that this wasn't an easy one to get ahead of that last Enzo. He was not slow, that's for sure. You can see here, lap 5, I kind of catch him up towards the beginning. Previous attempts I'd sort of caught him up on the very last corner of the last lap, but I actually had a really good race in this one, sort of hitting 32s and low 33s the whole time, and managed to catch him about halfway around. I accidentally shunted him in the back there, actually was, interestingly enough, by accident. But you really do need to be consistent, get the lines right, try not to touch the grass, those sorts of things, and basically just play it as aggressive as you can, as fast as you can, and really get your lines down and get those lap times as consistent as possible. And you can see there I get the win. Last track then, this is the Toscana Custom. Actually a very similar one to last week's. I believe last week's was a Toscana Custom track. Or it was a British lightweights, I think, which if that was, I can't even remember what it was. Well, it wasn't last week because that was time trials and stuff. You know what I mean. It's all of these big banked corners. Now this car handles, well, in my opinion, this car handles phenomenally well anyway, and so it basically just made this, you know, again, a really easy one to do. These usually are, you can see I take first halfway around lap 4, so a lap and a half, and I mean, I wasn't even driving particularly well there, so it should be a really, really easy last one. So I hope this video has helped you out, guys, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.